Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
And welcome to Las Vegas. Derek Richards here. Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. So happy to have you, and happy to be on board with our new platform here, which is CTVA.TV, Conservative Television of America. These guys are a platform that's out there. You can go on their website. You can find all the shows that they have. They also have some television market exposure as well, but you can see that on their website, CTVA.TV. So excited to have my guest on. Brandt Tobler is going to be here in just a second. Comedian from Cheyenne, Wyoming, now making his home in Denver, Colorado. And let me just say, excuse me. And by the way, you can't do that anywhere anymore. You can't cough without everybody looking at you. Cough or sneeze and see the looks that you get at a store. You look like Typhoid Mary. They just they stare at you like you're blowing COVID on them. Like I'm actually licking people. Not that I'm not opposed to doing that, but I wouldn't do that at a grocery store. Huge thanks to our sponsor, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. If you're going to bet sports, you got to hook up with these guys. These guys have a killer record. College football, they were crushing it this year. And now NHL, they made money on 3 games last night, so I was very, very excited about that. Go to their website, type in the promo code Derek35, and you can save 35% on any package that you get. Doesn't matter which one. You don't have to get the most expensive one. You know, if you get the cheapest one, you can do that too. Just type in the promo code Derek35 and you get 35% off all their packages. They do all the legwork. You can reap the benefits, make some money. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Go to them if you bet sports. Also, check out my album, Double Down, available wherever you download your comedy. It's on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon, recorded live in Fort Myers at Laughing Comedy Cafe. Huge thanks to Jamie and Eric, the guys down there. And also the Irish Comedy Tour, starting up our tour in March 3rd, we will be in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Almost forgot. And then we take off from there. Going to be in Schenectady, New York, Peekskill, head down to Florida, then to Boston, New Jersey, Massachusetts. It's going to be a good time. TheIrishComedyTour.com is our website. Got a couple guys that are going to be joining us on the tour this year. Mike Malone and also Patrick Garrity, who are both hysterical. Now, my guest today, this guy's a character. He has got some stories. Comedian Brandt Tobler, he's out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. You've seen him on Comedy Central, Fox, ESPN. He has 2 albums called Token White Boy and Ramblin' and Gamblin'. He has a podcast called The 31, which is highly recommended. And he's a comedian, actor, author of a book called Free Roll, which we will talk about here in just a little bit. Brandt Tobler is on A Drink with Derek.
You guys ever cheat on your spouse? No? Perfect. I just like to see if anyone's super drunk. Like, yeah, oh, shit. I got caught cheating one time. It was on Halloween night, one of the scariest nights of my life. And I was living in Vegas at the time, and my girlfriend was at work, and one of my old high school friends was in town visiting, and she said she wanted to come over and help hand out candy to little kids. But then we ended up in this crazy game of trick-or-treat in my bedroom. And I'm having sex with this girl, and I hear the doorbell ring, and I look at the clock. I'm like, it's 10:15. It's too late for a trick-or-treater. She's like, yeah, just ignore it. Keep going. I was like, yeah, all right, that's a good idea. And then little kid rang the doorbell again. I was like, shit, I guess I got to go deal with this. So I put my clothes on, and I went downstairs. And, of course, when I opened the door, it wasn't a trick-or-treater. It was my girlfriend, and she was furious. So I gave her a Snickers. But that shit only works in the commercials because she took it and fucking threw it over my neighbor's house. So she tried to barge in the door, and I slammed the door, and I wouldn't let her in because I didn't want a big cat fight in my house. And so I was hoping she would just leave, and I walked back upstairs. And when I got to my bedroom, the next thing I heard was just boom, boom, boom. And I looked out my bedroom window, and my girlfriend is in her Jeep just ramming the shit out of my car. And I'm watching like the back taillights break and the bumpers start to fall off. And so I call her parents. I'm like, hey, can you get this psycho out of here? And they call her, and she flips me off out the sunroof and peels off. And so I go downstairs to see how bad the damage is. When I get outside, my bumper is all the way off my car. All the back lights are broken. And to make things worse, she had taken her key and carved cheater real big in the side of my car, which was a real cock block for a newly single guy. So for like the next 2 months, I'd see a beautiful girl at a stoplight or in a parking lot, and I'd smile at them, and they'd smile back, and then they'd see cheater in my car and be like, what an asshole, and drive off. And so I didn't get laid for months, and I would just lay in bed so frustrated, like, what am I going to do? I can't buy a new car. I don't even have enough money for a paint job. And then one night, in the middle of the night, it hit me like the greatest idea ever, and I walked downstairs, and I grabbed my keys, and I went out to my car, and I just carved not a above cheater. So my car said not a cheater, but you women are like too smart and could tell the different penmanship or whatever. Because I still didn't get laid for like another 2 months. And then one day at lunch, it hit me like another brilliant idea out of nowhere. And I walked outside and I grabbed my keys and I carved PEA in front of cheater. So my car just said not a P cheater, which confused the shit out of people, but I finally started getting laid again. I was like, they're like, oh, he's a good dude. He just won't go down on me. I'm like, no, that's not it at all. And then I finally got a girlfriend, and on our 1-year anniversary, I let her carve good boyfriend in the other side of my car. So one side said good boyfriend, and then the other side said not a pea cheater. And then that car died, and I sold it to some Mexicans for $300. And I started to tell them this incredible story, and about 20 seconds in, they're like, amigo, we don't give a shit. This car is making one trip and one trip only. And I was so proud of that car. I was like, my car is in the Mexican mafia. It's the baddest 97 Maxima ever.
You know, the funny thing is, anybody that sees your act and they would think for 1 second that any of this is embellished is completely off base, because you and I have talked off stage on multiple occasions. And I mean, your life is your act on stage. Brandt Tobler in Denver, Colorado right now. Good to see you, bud. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, bud. Thanks for having me on the show. This is awesome. I forgot about that bit. I haven't done that bit in a while. You're like, send me a bit under 4 minutes, and I tend to do stories on stage, and I totally forgot about that bit. But yeah, it's 100% true, and there's a lot more to it actually. Just that's just not as funny. Just getting caught cheating and stuff, and the girl was not very happy with me. But yeah, having cheater carved in my car, and like I said, I thought I was so brilliant when I carved not a above it, and all my male friends thought it was funny, and the women, I say on stage, I don't know if it was the wrong penmanship or what, but yeah, it didn't trick any women. I think they'd seen those tricks before, so it was a rough time for those couple months. It was not a good look on the side of my car, but we got through it.
Well, you got a great way of doing your act on stage. Your stories are very they're very detailed, they're very animated, very colorful. It's true. Now, did you start doing comedy like that, or did it evolve into what you're doing now? I mean, because your stuff isn't like, joke, 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 punchline, 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 bam. It is these longer form storytelling, which is, I find insanely enjoyable. And it's also, it couldn't be any more signature you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, honestly, when I started in Vegas, and my favorite comedian was Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg, I grew up in Wyoming, not a lot of comedy in Wyoming. So Mitch was the first guy I saw on Letterman, and I just loved Mitch Hedberg. So I was writing like Hedberg style jokes in the beginning, and for the first couple years, and then Kyle Kinane actually came to Vegas, and he did a show, and he was telling stories. And I was so inspired by watching a great storyteller that I just kind of threw away my whole act of like one-liners and jokes that really weren't connected to me. And I just started doing stories. And then I started working with some other guys that came through Vegas. About that same time, I was given a chance to host at LA Comedy Club. So I got to see a few more storytellers because, back then there wasn't a lot of I'd watch late night sets, but those guys only have 5 minutes, or girls only have 5 minutes. So I didn't really get to see storytelling until I saw it live. And then I realized I should tap into my own stories, because there's a million chubby 5'11" white guys with beards out here. If I'm going to separate myself, I should maybe start talking about some of the crazy stuff that's happened to me. So I just started telling stories, and I realized they're a lot like jokes. It was just repetition. I just had to work on them, and it was just so much more rewarding to get a story to work. So then I just started telling stories more.
Well, it's got to be hard too if you're doing a set for industry where they say, all right, we want 5 to 7 minutes. And for you, one joke can be 5 to 7 minutes easily. Now, how do you handle doing something like that when they're like, hey, we need a 5 or 7 minute spot? I mean, is there a style that you have to try to break stuff down? Because it would be so hard to tell some of these stories and not have all the information in there, because that's what makes it so good.
Yeah, I just stopped really caring about industry, honestly, which is probably the wrong answer. But
Good for you.
When Ari Shaffir made "This Is Not Happening," that became my main goal because there was finally a storytelling show, and so I really, that's what I really worked on. And I always appreciated Ari because he was really fair. He would be like, "Dude, you're a great storyteller, but you're not famous." So like, they'll put on Tom Arnold. His story's not as good as yours, but he's Tom Arnold. So he's like, just keep working at it. And I did. And I didn't let that discourage me because I get it. I understand that side of the business. I was nobody. But my industry focus moved from doing a late night set to getting that Comedy Central This Is Not Happening, where I got to tell an 18-minute story. So to be honest, I just kind of changed my mindset, and I just didn't. I mean, I still work on stuff. Of course, I would still like to do a late night set, but as my storytelling's evolved, I've just kind of I've kind of changed the goals to not really care that much about it because I'm just not really built for it, and it was disappointing. But to be honest, I just stopped caring about it. My storytelling, I've had more success in my career through telling stories on podcasts. So I just kind of adapted to making podcasts more of a goal than a late night set. And to be honest, the podcasts, I think that's where you find true comedy fans. And that's helped me a lot more than a Tonight Show set. Weirdly, the industry's just changed. So I've kind of just changed because I had to, and because I just didn't have the short set.
No, which is great. I mean, like you said, the podcast platform is huge. I mean, look no further than Rogan and Bill Burr and all these other guys too, and your podcast too, the 31, which is a great podcast. How did that come about, and what is that podcast about? I was trying to do something a little different than everybody else because, again, there's just famous comics talking about comedy. So why would you listen to me when you can listen to Burr, Rogan, or something? And I always liked that Inside the Actors Studio. I always enjoyed that show. I forget what channel it was on. And the guy would always ask these questions at the end. And it didn't matter who the guest was. I always just enjoyed those questions. So I came up with a plan to just do 31 where I would ask 25 questions the same each week, and then 5 would be special for that guest, and then 1 audience. So it just came to the number 31, and I just started doing it like that, and I had success with it because people love to talk about themselves. So I learned that early. If you just ask people questions about themselves and not the same old questions, so I was fortunate to have kind of a little different podcast than what everybody else was doing. So, and I really enjoyed it. I love to learn about people. So I kind of got to ask the questions I wanted to know. So it just stemmed from that. And it's just a podcast world. If you're going to be successful as a comedian, I think it's all podcasts. I don't think industry, like I have a friend doing James Corden tonight, but no one's going to watch it. I mean, no one's right. That's sad.
I'm going to sure that I'll get more fans than he did doing this podcast with you he's going to be on TV tonight, but that's just the truth, because I'm sure your fans are comedy fans that are here to see a new comedian, and maybe I'll connect with some of them, maybe I won't, but it's just a targeted fans where my poor friend, he's going to be on the show at the end tonight when people are falling asleep. It's just, the world's changed. So I just had to adapt with it. And, podcast, it's just, if you're going to be a successful comedian in this day and age, I think you have to have a podcast. And when young comics ask me for advice, I'm like, you got to get a podcast. That's where the fans come from. So just out of that, I just kind of realized I had to do it, and then I really enjoyed doing it. So.
Well, you can go to your website, BrandtTobler.com, and find your video clips on there, which is your set on Comedy Central. I can't believe this is happening set where you talk about trying to kill your dad. But before we get to that, a couple random questions. What is the drink that gets you in trouble?
Red Bull vodka. Well, I can answer without a doubt. Red Bull vodka. I've had to stay
Red Bull
away
vodka.
from it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was never a blackout guy. I'm early 40s now. I'm 44. I forget how old I am. I'm 44. But over the last like 4 years, the bad nights I've had are Red Bull vodka when I don't remember. So, before that, I never had a problem. But I've had to really stop drinking Red Bull vodkas because they get me going, and it just never ends well.
Yeah, the energy and the alcohol is a bad combination. It's like the alcohol gives you bad ideas, and then the Red Bull gives you the energy to carry them out.
Yeah, and I've always stayed away from whiskey. The very first time I ever drank, I had whiskey, this crappy whiskey called Carstairs. So I've always struggled with whiskey.
Called what?
It's called Carstairs. I don't know if you've even heard of it. I don't think it's on your back wall back there.
That's hilarious. No, I'll take a glance. It is nowhere to be found. I'll check the well too. And it's no, I think we used to clean the stove.
Yeah, it's so I've always struggled with whiskey, and now as I've gotten older, it's funny because I think I kind of look like a guy from Wyoming that drinks whiskey. So a lot of times people send me a shot on stage, which will be like Jack or something, and I'm such a nerd of not just turning it down. I just take it. But I've struggled with whiskey, but now I'm starting to drink a little whiskey more. But it's honestly just shots and Red Bull vodka. I hate to sound like an old man, but I got to stick with this watery beer like Coors Light and stuff is what keeps me out of trouble. So that would be the long answer.
Go with what makes you happy. What is your pet peeve?
My pet peeve. Ooh. Man, it changes a lot. My pet peeve now, first thing that popped in my head would be when there's a GoFundMe. If someone shares a GoFundMe and then they don't donate, that makes me mad. It's like, if you're not going to donate, why do you put it out there? So instantly when someone like sends me a GoFundMe in my inbox, no matter what it is, usually it's for something good, you can see who donated, and it just drives me crazy that it's like, if you're not going to donate to this, why would you send me something from your hometown when I don't even know the person? So I guess that off the top of my head, which sounds awful, but I hate GoFundMe's. If you're not going to donate to them, don't expect me to.
No, I agree. That is such a tool bag move. It's like, you know what? I care about you enough to forward this, but not enough to give $50 to your cause.
Yeah. I don't. We live in a world where they try to pay us with exposure all the time. I'm like, don't try to pay a GoFundMe with exposure. Give, and again, you're sending it to a comedian. Like, we're not rich. I mean, I'm not a rich comedian, but I do have a big fan base. But again, it's like, if something happens to someone in Carmel, Indiana, or something, of course that's sad. But my fan base is Wyoming. It's just like, it just doesn't make sense for me to. To do that. So that would be my pet peeve. Like, because I would, if something happens in my neighborhood, Wyoming people always take care of each other. So I always try to help when I can. But again, I'm not going to send it to you because this just doesn't make any sense. So I guess that would be the first pet peeve I have. But I'm sure if I thought about it, again, I hate to sound like an old man, but I am getting to be a cranky old man. So I used to have no cares. And now I think I'm like, man, Brandt, you are a miserable old fart now.
No, not at all. When you mentioned a GoFundMe, there was somebody whose father had passed away, and which is horrible. But they had posted on Instagram. They go, "Oh, my dad passed away. He was an amazing human being. He provided for our family. He was great. He was, had a roof over our head, meals on the table. He was a brilliant human being." I'm like, sorry for your loss. 2 days later, there's a GoFundMe. Hey, we're looking to help pay for my dad's funeral. I'm like, well, your dad took care of everything but a life insurance policy.
Yeah. Or he took
like,
all that.
Okay.
It's your guy. It's your turn to do something. He did all that for you.
Exactly.
Why don't you
I know, right?
Yeah.
What is what's the worst? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying that for some reason the one that sticks with me lately. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't blame you. What is the worst decision you ever made?
Oh, oh man, how much time do we have? Uh, I mean, I've made the worst decisions. Man, the worst. Man, I've done so much bad stuff that I've tried to, grow out of. The worst one I've ever done. Oh God, without incriminating myself, like, I'll just keep it kind of vague. Is like
Sure.
being a comedian. I'm not a tough guy, like a fight guy, but I am really good at talking. And unfortunately, some of the things that I say, if I would say, some of the things I said, I can just be so mean with the way if I want to be. I think you would rather have me punch you in the face 10 times than to listen to me be mean to you for 60 seconds. So when I was younger, the way I treated people, sometimes I was really mean to people with my words that I don't think a black guy heals, and I'm not proud of some of the times I was really mean to people. It's a bad quality to have. So probably that. I mean, I've done a lot of bad stuff as far as like get arrested and stuff. I mean, try to kill my dad is probably not the most people would say that was probably, but really that was probably the best decision. I mean, the weird thing is that was probably the best decision I ever made was trying to kill my dad because he's now out of my life and it got me on Comedy Central. But I don't know the worst decision. I mean, I've done. I robbed when I worked at Dillard's. I stole over $600,000 worth of merchandise, which was probably
$600,000 of merchandise at Dillard's.
That's what they were missing. I don't know how much of it was my doing, but I would say a lot of it was my doing because no one really knew you could do it till I exposed that you could do it. So like that, but again, that I don't think. I mean, that's bad. Again, I have a different moral code. I don't mind stealing from Dillard's, but like I'd never litter. I never ever litter. You'd never see me litter. I'd never park in like a handicapped spot, even if I just have to run in and grab something. I've had this weird conversation with my friends. It's like I just have they say every man has a code, and I think some people would think my code, some of the stuff that I would never do, people are like, that's so dumb. And then like again, like robbing Dillard's. Dillard's was an awful company to work for, and they treated us awful. And I just am like felt like I was giving to the poor. I felt like Robin Hood giving $90 polo shirts to my friends with no money. So I don't know. I've done a lot of bad stuff, but I'd like to think I've grown out of that. Hopefully,
Well,
whoever's
your
watching.
book. No, it's great. I mean, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing: people need to first off, if you want to if you want to get the Carfax on Brandt Tobler, get his book,
Yeah.
Free Roll, which you had given me a copy of it when we had worked together in Vegas, and it was I watched it or I read it on the plane, and it was fantastic. And there was literally a couple times, like out loud, I had earplugs in to focus, but. Like I'm literally saying to myself, you got to be shitting me. And the guy next to me like glances over like, what? But your book is hilarious. Again, available on Amazon and Audible. And you talk about trying to kill your dad in your book. I mean, like I said, the stuff in your book is you, and that is what you translate to the stage, which obviously happened on Comedy Central with the special I Can't Believe This Is Happening. What, tell me about that. What was I'll get to the book here in a second, but I want to hear about, since you've mentioned it a couple of times about you trying to kill your dad. What did you try to do, and what was the culmination of this?
Yeah, I'll give you the short version because it is a longer version, and you could see a fuller version on YouTube on the Comedy Central. This is not happening, and my book details the whole thing. But so, to give you the short story, so my father was in prison the whole time I was a kid, and then he got out of prison when he was in and out of prison. So I would see him. He'd come in and out of my life occasionally every couple of years, and then he got out of prison when I was in college, and he moved to Las Vegas. Somehow he started dating a cocktail waitress while he was in prison, and he got out of prison, he moved to Vegas, and he sent me a letter. I hadn't spoken to my dad in years, and he just sent me a letter saying, hey, I'm in Las Vegas. I'd love to see you. And, that's all I needed. I had a wonderful stepdad, but, you always miss your dad. So I went to visit my dad in Las Vegas with two of my other friends who also didn't have dads growing up. And so we got to Vegas, and, we're just dumb kids from Wyoming. So we immediately fall in love with Las Vegas. And my father's like, you can move here and be with me. And I, just wanting that father relationship, I dropped out of college. And I wasn't doing that good at college anyway. I was just going to college to play basketball. Honestly, I hated college. So I dropped out of college, me and my two friends, and we moved to Las Vegas with the goal of being pirates at the Treasure Island. Back then, they used to have a pirate show where these two pirate ships would, like on the hour, come to have a fake fight, and all the drunk tourist chicks would watch, and we just thought it was a gold mine for we just thought it was the dream job. So we and our families needed to stay. Were not very happy with us when we told them we're dropping out of college to go be pirates. So we moved to Vegas. Obviously, we don't become pirates. So again, I'm from Wyoming. I don't know anything about casting. I don't look like a pirate. I don't have muscles, or I didn't know anything. That's like a legit like acting gig. I didn't know anything. I'm just an idiot. So then my friends, they catch a lot of flack from their family, and they realize we're living in a trailer with my dad and his cocktail waitress girlfriend and her two kids, and then me and my two friends, and we're sleeping on a, like you have a mattress and a box spring, but we have the mattress off the box spring so we could sleep like four across, but we were happy because we were in Vegas. But eventually they left, and then I got a job working in a casino, this dump casino in the middle of the night, where I had to count money. I'd have to empty the slot machines and count money, which there's nothing worse when you're broke is just counting money, sitting there reminding you how broke you are. And I'm thinking I have that, I'd robbed Dillard's and I got away with it. But then I was like, I can't really rob a casino. It's a different thing. So anyway, I was about to move home, and then I would play basketball. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So I was
huge
really
props to the casino, by the way, for not doing any background checks or doing any research on the fact that you fleeced Dillard's for $600K. But continue.
Yeah,
okay.
Let me tell you something. It was a place called the Klondike. And, I mean, you lived in Vegas. You live in Vegas.
Oh man! Oh yeah. Yes. So the Klondike.
Have anybody work there was trust me. I worked with anybody they could get in there to come count money in the middle of the night. So anyway, I was a really good basketball player growing up, and I wanted to play basketball, but I'd moved to Vegas when it was hot. So there was you couldn't really play outside because it was too hot. But there was one gym on my side of town, and it was this really expensive gym, and I was broke, but I got a credit card. Somehow they gave me a credit card, and I used this credit card. I went to this gym, and I started playing basketball every day. And I played basketball at lunch with these older dudes, and I was like, I didn't know what they did, but they were all rich. They had Mercedes and BMW, and I'd never been in a Mercedes or anything. So I was like mesmerized by these dudes, and I played basketball with them. And then one day I asked them what they were doing, and then they were all professional gamblers, professional sports gamblers. So shout out to your sponsors. They were professional sports gamblers. So then I'd always ask him because I loved to sports gamble. So then there was one dude who was like the head of the gym, who was like the coolest guy, and everybody you could just tell he was like the richest, biggest dude. And so I started asking him. I'd be like, "Hey man, tell me who to gamble on," and he'd always tell me, "Hey man, hey kid, don't gamble. Here's my advice: don't gamble." He'd always tell me that, but then he'd always get on my team, and he loved to win. And then I'd win him games because I was probably the best player at the gym at the time. So we'd always end up on the same team. So over time, I just kept asking him. And then one time I was like, "Hey, man, give me the games." And he's like, "All right." And he took me into this hallway, and he told me these 4 games. He said, "These are the 4 games we're betting. Don't tell anybody in the gym. This is like a secret games. Don't tell anybody, right?" So, of course, I run home, tell my dumbass dad. The millionaires gave me the secret games. So we get all the money we have. I had like $1,200 saved up because I was thinking about moving back to Wyoming to be with my girlfriend. My dad gets like $2,500 from his cocktail waitress. We go bet these 4 games. Needless to say, you already know what happens. All the games lose. We lose all our money. My dad's
Oh,
cocktail waitress is so mad at him, wants to kick us out of the trailer. So now I can't go to the gym for like a month because I have no money. So I have to go. I have no gas money or anything. So I have to take the bus to go to the Klondike to try to save up a little money. So then after a month, I go.
what a sad trip that is, taking the bus to the Klondike Casino.
Down Boulder Highway at like 11. First of all, it wasn't even safe. I could have gotten killed at any time. So then I finally go back to the gym after a month, and when I walk in, the dude that gave me the game sees me, and he's like, "What's up, man? Where you been?" I was like, I bet those games. I lost all my money. And he just starts laughing right in my face. And he goes, "You know what, kid, if it makes you feel better, we lost like 800,000 that day." I go, and I was like, "No, it doesn't make me feel any better. You're rich. I have no money." So then he goes, "You know what, kid, just come to lunch. You would come to lunch with us." Because they would go to lunch every day after the gym, but I never got invited. It was like a thing. I always was wondering what they do because they'd always, when we were leaving the games, they'd always like, "All right, meet at this place." We'd meet at Capriotti's, and then they'd always go, but I never got invited. So then this time he said, "Come to lunch." I was like, "Okay." And I had no money, so I needed a free lunch, So I go to lunch, and then he has me order. And, these guys always just had pockets full of cash, and it was just like he paid for everything. And then he said, "Come sit with me." So everybody sat at these other tables. Then he sat with me in this back table by myself. And then he just started talking to me. He's like, "So what's up, man? What are you doing?" I was like, "I think I'm going to move back home. I have a girlfriend." He's like, "For what?" He was like, "I don't know. I'm thinking about trying to go back to college. I feel like I need to do something." And then, so I tell him this whole thing. And then he eventually just goes, "You know what, man? You work for me." I was like, "What?" He's like, "You work for me now." He's like, "You go with Tony when we leave here." And I didn't even know I didn't know anything. It was like the most surreal moment. And Tony was like his right-hand man, this big, like, athletic dude, like this big muscle dude. So my guy, you wouldn't really mess with him, but this was like, you really wouldn't mess with Tony. So I was like, okay. So I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know I was in a job interview or anything. So then we finish eating, and then he just says, "Tony, he's going with you." So then I go, okay. So then I just go get in this car. I get in a BMW. I've never been in a BMW. So I get in the car, and Tony's like, "All right, man, you're with us now." And I was like, "All right." So then he explained to me my job was I was a runner. So my job was I carry hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, and I run up and down the strip and bet on sports, what they would tell me to bet on. So we drive right from Capriotti's. We drive to Bally's. I'll never forget. We drive to Bally's, and it's college football time. And he's like, and he hands me $20,000 cash. Most I've ever had in my life is probably $2,000. He hands me $20,000 cash. He says, "Go in there and bet Duke in football." And I'm like, "Duke?" And at the time, Duke had lost like 20 games in a row. Duke football is like the worst. I go, "Duke?
Right.
What betting Duke?" He goes, "Let me tell you something, kid. The first thing about this job is you just do what you're told. You just always do what you're told." I was like, "All right." So then I walk in, and I have the money, 10,000 each pocket. My hands are sweaty. I'm scared. I get up to the counter. I'm like, they look at me like just a dumb. At the time, I'm like 22, I think. I walk up to the counter, and the ticket agent's like, "Can I help you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll take Duke." And they go, "Okay, how much?" I go, 20,000. And the dude's like, "What?" I go, 20,000. They go, 20,000. I go, $20,000. They go, "Hold on." And the supervisor comes over, and he's like, "You want Duke for 20,000?" I go, "Yeah." And I pull out the cash, and they look at it. Everyone's all confused. I don't know what I'm doing. They go, "Okay, kid." And they print out the ticket. Then I have that ticket in my pocket, in my hand. I just clutch it all the way to the car because I'm so scared of like dropping it or something. So I take it to the car, and then I hand it to him, and he goes, "All right, we're off and running. This is how it works." So then for like the next week, he trained me how to do it, and then it's a long story, but then I had a certain area of the strip that I worked, and then there was other runners. So people always ask why you'd have runners. So like I had to beat the other runners trying to bet the games, and then my bosses were in an office, and they were betting offline, on all back then it wasn't like DraftKings and all that. It was like there were websites in Costa Rica and all this. So they were betting online. So then that was my job. So anyway, I do that for like a year. I'm crushing it. I'm making so much money. I'd come home in the middle after work, and I'd go to this trailer, and I would lock the door, and I'd sit in this room and just count the money and like spell my name with it and just like make pyramids. I'd have $100,000. and I lived in like a $60,000 trailer. I would just play with this money at night. So then everything was going good, and then I worked for them, and the crazy thing is so then my boss had a partner, and then the first month I worked there, he was back taking care of his mom because his mom was sick back in Kentucky. So then he flies back, and they're like, hey, we hired this new kid. And they called me X because I was Generation X, and everybody in the gambling world, you don't use your real name. So I was X. And then they hired me, and then so my boss's partner was like, this kid is an FBI plant. So then they thought I was an FBI because I had problems with the FBI before. And looking back on it, I get it because I was like a kid that just out of nowhere showed up at this gym that's just really, it was like $150 a month to go to the gym. And I was a kid that lived in a trailer with no money. So then they were really, the second month I worked, they thought I was an FBI plant. So then I'd have to spend all this time with them, which was great because they're rich. So we'd go out to dinners and stuff. And now in hindsight, I realized they were really trying to figure out if I was an FBI plant or not. And then they realized after like a month, oh, he's just an idiot that just lucked into the dream job. So then they trust me. So then I work for them for like the next year, and I just make a ton of money. Everything's cash under the table, and I just have money. And then so then I move us out of the trailer. I convinced my little brother to move to Vegas to live with me and my father to try to repair this relationship, have a father-son relationship. And so my brother, he's just like a stoner kid that lived in Portland, just worked at a Subway. He would just save up money, travel around, watch the Grateful Dead. That's all he cared about in life. So I convinced my little brother to move to Vegas into this house with me and my father. So now it's the three of us living on a golf course. And everything's good. Everything's going good. My dad's good. I'm making a ton of money. We're hanging out. And then one night we would, after I'd get done with work, I'd just bring home beer and stuff. I'd sit on the back porch with my dad and my brother, and we would just talk about all the stuff my dad missed out in life, right? So then one day my dad's like, when did you need me the most? I go, you know what, Dad? The time I probably need you the most, I was like, I was 18 or 19, and I got an STD. And I didn't know what to do. And I was scared to go to the doctor because back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then they said if you go to the doctor, they put like a Q-tip down your penis, like to tech. And I was so scared of that. And I didn't want to go. And then my friend, she had just got her wisdom teeth out. So she had some penicillin that they gave her. So like my friend said, just take this penicillin, it'll clear it up. So I did that. So I'm telling my dad the story. I go, so then I didn't want to go to the doctor. So then I just took my friend's penicillin and it all cleared up and I was fine. And my dad turned bright white when I'm telling the story like a ghost. And I'm like, Dad, what's the matter? And he goes, son, when you were like 4, I cheated on your mom and I got an STD and I went to the doctor and they gave me penicillin and I was deathly allergic to penicillin. I took it. I almost died. So he was like, if you were like, heredity, if you were like me, if you're allergic to penicillin, you could have died. And, I just laughed. I was like, well, I didn't, I'm fine. And we laughed about it then. Right. So anyway, fast forward, everything is good. So fast forward, my dad's on parole. So he has to be good this whole time. My dad would have to go do peace tests. My dad was good. But then the second my dad got off parole, he just started acting different. And he started hanging. So now at this point, I'm 23. My little brother's 21. My dad starts bringing home like these meth head, like just white trash kids that are like our age. And we're like, I could just feel something was going wrong. And then like I had some friends in town from Wyoming and when their wallets ended up missing. And I knew my dad stole, one of the worst days of my life to have to tell your friend, hey man, my dad stole your wallet. It's just such a weird thing to even say out loud. So I felt like everything was going bad, but I just didn't know how bad it was. So then I'd have to, on college football Saturdays, I'd have to work from 8 in the morning to 8 at night, just running up and down the strip betting. Then I have to wake up on Sunday and do the same thing for pro football. So on this Saturday, I work my butt off all day and I come home at like 8:30 and I'm exhausted. I tell my dad, hey dad, if you want to come down tomorrow, I can get everything comped for you. I'll get you a VIP booth, food, drinks, come watch the games. He's like, all right, son, because I was still you just still believe in your dad's not the scumbag that you were worried he is. And then sure enough, I fall asleep because I'm exhausted. My little brother comes home at like 11:30 and he wakes me up and he had saved up like I saved up like $380 to fly back to Portland to see his girlfriend graduate college. So he wakes me up out of a dead sleep, and he's like, Brandt, something happened. Someone stole my money. So I jump out of bed. I'm like, one of these little meth heads stole my brother's money. So I run downstairs to find my dad to be like, hey, where's Ryan's money? Then I get downstairs, and my dad had this white trash Camaro that he thought was so cool that always had to be parked in the garage. He thought it was like a Rolls Royce or something. It was just trash, but that's how he is. So he always had to have this Camaro parked in the garage. So I run downstairs. I'm yelling for my dad to try to find him, and no one's to be found. And I open the door, and the garage and the Camaro's gone. And in that moment, it hit me like, oh crap! I have all my work money upstairs. I run upstairs because I would hide the money under my bed when I'd go to sleep at night in a shoebox. I run back upstairs, and my dad stole $80,000 cash from me, which obviously isn't mine. You know, yeah.
Wow.
I work for guys you're not supposed to be $80,000 short for. I don't know if there's any job you can be $80,000.
Oh no!
So then me and my little brother are just sitting in the hallway crying. I just remember my brother just punching the ground, and he's crying. I'm trying to counsel, like console him, and I'm like, what are we gonna do? And you know what made me so sick was like I work for multimillionaires. I mean, $80,000 a lot. So. But the fact my dad stole that $80,000 and then went and stole $380 from his own son, in that moment I was like, "That's it, man. I'm gonna kill my dad." Because I thought I was dead anyway from my job. Because one of the first things my boss told me when I worked for him, he goes, "All you have in this world, in our world, is your reputation. When your reputation's gone, you're gone." And that always resonated with me. And in that moment, I'm just sitting there thinking, "What am I gonna do? I'm $80,000 short. What am I gonna do?" So then I'm like, I'm going to kill my dad. So again, I'm 23 years old. I've never killed anybody. This is like before Dexter or anything. So we come up with a plan. So my cousin is a real gangster, a real life gangster. And he lives in Phoenix, and he's like a real gangster and the most loyal dude in my life. So I call him and I tell him what happened. He's like, I'll be there in 6 hours. He gets in his car. He drives straight to Vegas, So I come up with a plan. It's a stupid plan, but my dad, we lived right by a Jamba Juice. And my dad would go get a Jamba Juice. He loved Jamba Juice for some reason, right? So I was like, what we'll do is we'll get a Jamba Juice and we'll get some penicillin. We'll put in the penicillin. We'll give my dad the Jamba Juice. He'll drink it and then he'll die. Brilliant plan, right? So that's the plan I come up with. So my cousin Cato, he's driving up, and he gets there. And he has a little duffel bag. He has a gun with him. He's like, just tell me what. I go, no, I got a better plan. I go, this is what we're going to do. So I said, I'm going to leave town. I said, can you get some penicillin? He's like, I can get anything, So I said, I'm going to leave town so it doesn't look like I'm involved and no one knows he's in town. So here's the plan. We'll get some penicillin. We'll put it in a Jamba Juice. We'll give it to my dad. He'll drink it. He'll die in the kitchen. When he drinks it, you guys both go to Phoenix. I'll be in Estes Park with my girlfriend. They'll find my dad dead. Clear sailing. Again, stupid plan. So they're like, all right, let's do it. So I get a flight. I tell my girlfriend, meet me in Denver. We're going to Estes Park. We go to Estes Park. So that takes a day. So then my cousin, of course, somehow gets the penicillin. And so then I call him like the next day. I go, are you guys ready? They're like, we're ready. We went and got a mango. My dad liked mango. Got him a mango Jamba Juice, filled it up, penicillin. Like, it's in the fridge. We're just waiting for your dad to come home. So my dad comes home. They give him the Jamba Juice. And my dad doesn't drink it, of course. My dad was in, like, Leavenworth, in, like, real prison. And at this point, he knows that we're enemies. And he knows if my cousin's there, that's not good for him, because he knows my cousin my whole life, My cousin was the youngest dude to ever go to prison in Wyoming prison when my dad was in prison in Leavenworth. So they've always known. But I think he knew when my cousin was there, I was bad. But I don't think he thought we were going to try to kill him because, we're just dumb kids. And right. I don't think he thought we were built like that. So I think he probably thought we peed in the Jamba Juice or something. But he still knows you're not going to take a gift from your enemies. So my dad, they hand him the Jamba Juice. My dad's like, just puts it on the counter, doesn't drink it, and he leaves. So then I call him back. I called him before that. They're like, it's good to go. We'll call you when it's over. So I wait like an hour, 2 hours, no call. I call him back. I'm like, yo, what happened? They're like, he didn't drink it. I was like, you know what? This is crazy. Just get in the car. just go to Phoenix. When I come back, we'll just move out. You guys live in Phoenix. Ryan, take my brother to Phoenix. I'll move out. I'll deal with this with my bosses. And my cousin's like, nah, we got another plan. I was like, what's the plan? He goes, don't worry about it. We got a plan. We'll call you when it's over. And he hangs up. So I'm just sitting there with my girl like, I don't know what's happening. So this is a plan they came up with. So like I said, my dad had that dumb Camaro that he always had to park in the garage. So what they did was they opened the garage door, and then they cut all the power lines, the phone lines, and then they just waited in the dark in the garage, waiting for my dad, because they knew what he would do. And sure enough, my dad came home, parked his stupid Camaro in the garage, hit the button to try to get the door to shut, wouldn't shut. He gets out of the car, he goes, shuts the garage manually, locks it. The second he does that, my brother and cousin jump out of the darkness with golf clubs. They try to kill him with golf clubs in the garage. But the mistake they made was there's no light in there. So they're swinging away, like they hit him, but they're almost hitting each other. And like, so they hit him a couple times, but there's like a door that in the garage that leads to the backyard. And at the bottom of this door, there's a doggy door for a dog to go in and out of. And that's the only light that's coming in the garage. And my dad sees that door, and he just puts his shoulder down and just runs and plows, busts right through the door, falls on his back into the backyard, runs through the backyard, jumps over the back wall onto the golf course, and then runs away. And then I've never seen him or heard from him since that day, which is about 21 years ago. So
the last time you saw your dad, he was taking a 5-iron upside the coconut, dives through a doggy door, hops the fence onto a golf course, ironically, and he's gone.
I didn't even get to see that part. The last time I saw him was just yelling at him. I'll never forget. I was at the top of the stairs yelling down at him like, one day I'll get married. You'll never be at my wedding. I'll have kids. You'll never see my, which is weird. I have never got married. I don't have kids. So I guess I was lying about that, but just screaming at him, crying, like trying to say the most hurtful things I could to him. What I said earlier, that I have that in me, but he that doesn't faze him. That's the one person, because he doesn't have a heart. So all the mean things that usually would hurt other people, what I would say, it just didn't hurt him. So that was that. Then he's away, and I've always thought I'd see him, because I lived in Vegas after that for a while, and then I moved to Los Angeles. But I would come back, I'd do the MGM with Brad. My name's on the marquee, on a 100-foot marquee on the strip. So, but I didn't talk to any of my family on that side after that, because they all took his side, because he's just such a manipulator. He's just such a smooth talker. Probably where I got it from. So I didn't talk to anyone on that side of my family. And the last I heard, my dad, I think he lives somewhere in like Tacoma or something. I don't know where he's at, but he's of course never reached out. And people always ask me, what's going to happen if he ever comes to a show or something? And, if he shows up one day, I don't know if I'd even recognize him, because this is the crazy part of the story I didn't even tell, is when I got a letter from him, he said, I'll be at the Phoenix airport. And then I went to meet him as he was getting out of prison to go to Vegas. I went to meet him at the airport, and I didn't know I didn't even know what he looked like, because I hadn't seen him in so long. So I was walking through the airport like, is that my dad, or is that my dad? Then of course, when I saw him, I was like, well, that's my dad. So even though I haven't seen him in 20 years, if I saw him now, I'd probably recognize him. But, hopefully, I just hope he dies, and just be done. I say that. It's an aggressive thing to say. But I'm always like, I just hope he dies.
Hey, you had a horrible experience with him, and you're entitled to feel the way you feel. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
And
there's no fixing it. People are always like, it's not fixable. He was awful. No. My mom. So it's just like sometimes there's just no fixing it. So the fact he's alive is just not. There's nothing good can ever happen for it. So I just am waiting one day for a message that he's dead. And it'll just bring me joy, which is, again, a very thing to say. But just knowing he's out there, it's just nothing but bad can happen. So, there's nothing good can ever happen.
Hey, I don't blame you. Like, listen, sometimes the TV is just broken. You can try to put, my dad we had TVs when I was growing up, and the antenna, my dad would try to wrap a bunch of aluminum foil on it. He'd move it around. He'd smack the side of it. And I'm like, at some point, you just got to throw it away. So, and that goes for relationships too. It's not, some things are just not fixable. You can smack your dad upside the head all you want. He's not going to become a better person.
We smacked the
That's
side of him and we threw him away. We did what you did with your TVs, and
That's
he's in a dump
so
somewhere. And
funny.
no one ever brought that TV back to your house, and I hope my father. I don't even call him my father. I hope David never shows up anywhere in my life. Just one of these days, I'll get that message, and it'll probably be a little cringy on Facebook when I have balloons and fireworks celebrating my father's death. But
balloons and fireworks emojis when he dies. That would just be so rude. Just have like fireworks gifs and balloon gifs and stuff like that, and it's like the cartoon version of you just like dancing. Hey, my dad's dead, dude. Three randoms.
Rub some people the wrong way, but
whatever.
What's funny is when anyone close to me in my life, someone dies, that knows my life story, I'm always like, man, I wish it was my dad and not your grandmother or your mom. And it always makes them smile and laugh a little that I say that. So it's anytime someone's like, my dad died, I'm like, God, I wish it was mine. And for a second, they pause and then they think about how bad my dad is. And we at least get a smile out of it. And they go, that's nice of you to say, which I don't know if, sometimes people thank me for saying that. It's like, oh, that's sweet of you to say. I'm like, hey, man, I mean it. Your dad was wonderful. I wish your dad was still here and they'd have taken mine. But yeah, so that was, that's just part of the
That's
journey.
crazy stuff, man. People need to come out and see you when you're out here in Vegas. See you anywhere for that matter. BrandtTobler.com is your website. You're regular at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club at the MGM Grand, also the LA Comedy Club at the Stratosphere as well. But BrandtTobler.com is his website. Grab a copy of his album. You can see some of his clips that are on there too. The Comedy Central clip is on there. Again, Brandt Tobler, BrandtTobler.com. Follow him on social media here as well. One stupid, random, dumb question as we wrap up here. Fill in the blank.
Let's light
Vacation to Disney was great until blank happened.
Until my father showed up.
If I was the mayor of Las Vegas, I would do blank.
Oh, man, I would. That's a great question. I would. It's a generic answer, but it's the truth. Bring back old Vegas.
I love it. And finally, things got weird at the bachelor party when blank.
Oh, man. When my buddy's wife walked in.
I know for you, trying to pull stuff out of your hard drive has got to be the most bizarre. I can't imagine that circus that's going on up inside your head. People need to pick up a copy of your book, Free Roll. Get it on Amazon or Audible. It's a great read. It's very entertaining, and people need to come out and see you whenever you're playing a show somewhere. My friend, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Happy New Year, you sexy bastard.
Thank you, buddy. I always enjoy talking to you, man. Hopefully our paths will cross. I know you're on the road a bunch in these next couple months, but hopefully I'll see you somewhere along the road. And thanks for having me. This was awesome. No,
definitely, man. Thank you so much. Brandt Tobler, BrandtTobler.com here on A Drink with Derek. Hey, huge thanks to our sponsor, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. If you're going to bet sports, you got to go with these guys. Type in the promo code Derek35, save 35% on all of their packages. Also, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Just, get a couple packages, get something small, and then and see how you do. And then also grab a copy of my album, Double Down, available on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon. The Irish Comedy Tour, theirishcomedytour.com, starting up the tour on March 3rd in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. I will be at Traverse City Comedy Club in Traverse City, Michigan, coming up on January 28th and 29th. Traverse City Comedy Club, Traverse City, Michigan, January 28th and 29th. My website, DerekRichards.com. Huge thanks to the folks over at CTV. Hang on, CTV. Make sure I get this right here. Yeah, huge thanks to the folks at CTVA.TV. I'll get that right. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. A Drink with Derek here in Las Vegas. We'll see you next time. Bye.
You're watching Conservative Television of America.